Greetings, greetings, greetings. Here we are again, back to another carnivore-ish conversations. The space where truth and taste and transformation turn up. So I'm excited today because all month we've been talking about our kids. So we've been talking about resetting, rhythm, reclaim. It's at the beginning of the year. And so we've been trying to find ways to empower our kids. And here's the reality. Our kids are getting sicker than ever. Child obesity and ADHD, migraines, fatty liver, mood swings, and even early puberty. These are showing up before they hit high school. These aren't genetic flukes. These aren't random systems. They are actually metabolic dysfunction. And so when we think about fatty liver, used to be a chronic illness of alcoholics because of their alcoholism. And now we've had to rename it to be non-alcoholic fatty liver because we're seeing the same symptoms in our children. And so unless we reset this rhythm, unless we start to change the trajectory, then they're going to grow up as children with disease earlier, right? Not later. And so that's why we are here, is to try to continue to help our children do better earlier. So, but here's the hope. They're not broken. They just need to be healed. Our kids don't need more prescriptions. They need protection. They don't need another trendy diet. They need caregivers who understand what it means to fuel the body, what their rhythm looks like, and then understanding really like the science and the biology. So again, that's why this month's theme is reset, rhythm, and reclaim. We're at the beginning of a school year. It is an optimal time for us to start now with how we want to set the tone for the remainder of the year. So the next generation is going to start with us, how we model and what we feed our children and what we're willing to unlearn. Hear me loud and clear. There has to be some unlearning. And I know this personally because I was stuck with my own health. I suffered with, dirty keto. I was still sick. I was still inflamed. And it wasn't until I really met my guest that's going to join me here in a second that I began to make some huge leaps in my health. So I'm personally excited to have Craig here with me on today because I was stuck in this dirty keto, all of this almond flour. I was buying all these packaged foods. It said keto, so it's good for me, right? It's labeled this, it's labeled that. So I was diving in and I was getting sicker and bigger, fluffier, I should say. But when I learned of the Emmerichs, oh my God, was there a change in my life? I was making some strides, but boy, the trajectory. If you've never looked up Maria and Craig Emmerich, today is your day. Go find them. Go Google them. They are fantastic. With what I love about them is you're going to always figure out what is quality, right? That's something I had no clue about. What are the ingredients? I was not reading ingredients. I was only reading the front of the package that told me something had 30 grams or something was keto or it was low carb or zero sugar, but I was not reading until I met this couple. And so Maria is extremely busy somewhere, but Craig is gracing us with his presence on this evening. And I'm super duper thankful because that's where I started my unlearning, was just listening to them. And when I say as a result of knowing them, I had lost about 30, gained some more, lost some more, gained some more. But with them and their teachings, I know for certain I've dropped about 40 pounds. And not only just that, but my body is starting to heal. And so I'm truly grateful to, share this space with Craig on today. And so the other thing that I want to make sure that you all know is that I'm also a keto and carnivore coach under them. So they provide a coaching program for people who start to heal themselves and they want to help other people, they have training for that. And so I'm excited to, that's where I got my first real structured teaching. And of all the, I would say of all the accreditations that I've had, I still hold tight to theirs because it's so rich and they have a robust bank that I can always go back to, whether I'm talking to them or not talking to them. I can hop in and learn more so that I can support my clients. And so now I want to get to just welcome the man himself who has helped hundreds of thousands worldwide reclaim their health, Craig Emmerich. Craig is an international best-selling author. How about he was an electric engineer, right? And then he turned researcher. He's a father. That's the main thing that I want to just promote tonight, is that not only am I bringing him to our stage, but I'm also bringing a father who understands what it means to raise metabolically healthy children. And so he's raising 2 strong boys. If you haven't been on any of their channels, he's going to get a chance to tell you about that. And again, someone who has been instrumental on my own journey, like, wow, like changed me forever. When you all hear me talking about I make ice cream, it's Maria's recipe. When you hear me talking about I sent somebody a recipe to make me a cake, it's Maria's recipe. If you can taste it, Maria can make it be won't hurt you, right? Your blood sugar is not going to be spiked. Like Maria got a recipe for everything. Now, I'm not that much in the kitchen, but when I am, I know I can go find it with Maria. So I want to welcome Craig Emmerich to the stage with me. Craig,
thank you
so much for being here and just the work that you've done in this space of low carb, of healing, of just like, I mean, your family is just out there. I mean, you all belong to the world at this point, right? So I don't know how you all do it, how you keep everything afloat. But my God, the things that I'm able to just shoot videos to people like, don't listen to me. Look at Craig. Don't listen to me. Here's Maria. Like, that is the story of my life. So if you know me, people know Maria, right? When I'm doing, they like, send me your ice cream recipe. I'm like, not my ice cream recipe. This is Maria Emmerich's ice cream recipe. I own every book. Before I ever met you guys in person, I had bought every book.
Thank
I
you.
have every ebook, because I know that that's something that I can trust, is the ingredients are going to be pure. So thank you for being here. Hi to the rest of the family. I know life is busy, but I appreciate you showing up. Introduce us to you and who's on your lap there.
I know you're probably going to see little Bella here from time to time.
Yes.
She is not happy if she's not on my lap, but yeah, well, thank you so much, Denitra, for the lovely introduction and very kind of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we raise kids and we do it in this crazy world we're in and running a business, and we homeschool our boys too. So, we have a lot of, very busy life and a lot going on, but we always prioritize health. And I think that's important for everyone. And I think it's important to educate our kids about health, because that's one of the things, when it comes to kids in general, we spend so much time and effort, with their schooling, which is important, or with sports. You get these families that are doing summer sports and they're putting all this money and time into sports. But really, one of the best things for their long-term vitality and health is teaching them about diet, nutrition, and what they're putting in their bodies. And we don't, as families generally, we don't spend any time doing that. We don't talk to our kids about nutrition or what they're putting in their bodies. And I think that's an area that a lot of families are missing out on.
I agree with you. And the huge problem is, like, there's so much misinformation, right? As a parent, my son is 31 now, and what I know now, I had no clue of, right? So of course, I didn't feed him properly, and we've suffered the consequences of this. So not only his health has suffered, but mine as well. Over the years, we're like, run through McDonald's, it's convenient, right? Buy a box of cereal, it's convenient. You think about breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And so our kids and I was a school teacher for a very long time, right? So it was nothing for me to bring, a couple of dozen donuts, get into the Krispy Kreme fundraiser for the kids. So,
Yeah.
again, kudos for you for homeschooling your kids where they don't have those, temptations right in front of them. But talk to me, Craig, a little bit about, in your opinion, how bad is this crisis with our children, with their health right now? How bad do you think it is?
It's getting worse and worse. And, like you said, childhood obesity was almost non-existent. And things like adolescent insulin resistance and diabetes and adolescent, fatty liver, like these things didn't exist, not that long ago, 30, 40 years ago. These were not things that really existed at all. And now they're becoming more and more prevalent. And we're actually in the middle of, we've started to write a new book all about nutrition and health. And it's going to be kind of a one-stop place, if you will, for everything about nutrition and health and hormones and everything. And I start out the book just talking about how we got here. And one of the things I'm highlighting is the kids, the obesity in kids, the, insulin resistance, diabetes rates, everything just going through the roof. And, kids, especially when, young kids, teenagers, they should be in that, Dr. Lehman is one of the world's leading researchers on protein. And we had him, I was interviewing him, and we talked about there's kind of a honeymoon period for, how much protein you need. As you get older, it becomes much, much more important, especially after 40, 50, 60 years old, because you need even more protein just to maintain muscle. But you have sort of a honeymoon period where your metabolism is going, crazy when you're young. It's all about growth and growing. And that should be the honeymoon period metabolically for kids, right? And now more and more we're seeing they're just getting diabetes and fatty liver, and it just shouldn't be happening that way. And it's clearly the food supply that's failed them.
Absolutely. And you make a good point. You mentioned the term insulin resistance. I say it often again, prior to, listening to like you and Maria, Eric Westman, Ken Berry, like those were terms that I had never heard before. Like somebody asked me one time, it was like, do you even know what insulin is? I was like, yeah, it's what diabetics get. I didn't even know personally for me that it was a hormone in my body. Duh. Yeah. I didn't know. Right. And so when we think about parents who are, raising their children, and doctors are not even testing children for these, right? There's no lab work when they do their physicals for this. I mean, it's one of the things that, learning from you all again, that I express explicitly to my clients, like, I'm helping you, but I need you to be helping your kid. Right. And so I have had 3 or 4 of my clients who are now having children who are definitely insulin resistant and on the cusp of being pre-diabetic. So what do you see with this insulin resistance showing up earliest in kids? Talk to us about how does that show up? What is happening to cause that? And I know we talk all the time about the standard American diet. So tie those things together for me and help the audience really understand what's happening when they are subscribing to the standard American diet.
Yeah, it's just the, you look at a grocery store, and the vast majority of them, everything in the middle of the grocery store is the problem, right? It's all the processed foods. It's all the, the sugars, you look at, we've gotten pushback. Our kids, we adopted from Ethiopia when they were 1 and 2 years old. So that's 14 years ago now. And we just started feeding them what we eat, right? We just fed them, some of the first solid foods Kai had was bone marrow and egg yolks and, little crumbled up bits of salmon and, just real food, right? And yet, we online we'll get pushback all the time of, why are your kids eating this way? They don't need to lose weight. And it's like eating meat and low carb vegetables shouldn't be an extreme diet. That was the normal diet, generally a long time ago. And now it's like this extreme diet that, just let them be kids and eat all this junk. Well, no, even I don't know if you remember Little House on the Prairie. Remember that TV show? I remember one of the episodes. They went on Christmas. They went into the general store, and they each got to pick out one piece of candy for like a penny, and that was once a year for Christmas. And now it's, look what kids get now. It's a constant stream of sugar in their diet. And I obviously that's a big factor of what's driving a lot of this. And I think it's just getting back to something. And you pointed out in the beginning, Maria and I, ever since the beginning of, 25 years ago, starting down this path of this low carb and helping clients, we focused on real food, whole foods. And that's always been like number one, just start with whole foods. That, has been one of our principles. And I think that's where we got to start generally with our kids as well, is just get back to real food. None of this processed junk and tons of sugar and all that. Just start with real food, vegetables, animal proteins, fruits, those kind of things.
Yeah, I like one of the things that you said about, and I say this all the time. I mean, I'm a student of yours, so I can, keep like a tape player. But one of the things that you said that I want to highlight for the audience is that when you are shopping in the store, I mean, it's like the roadmap for every store. When you first go in the store, if you go over to the right, you're going to find your fruits and your vegetables. Over to the left, you're going to find your dairy, your eggs, your cheese. Across the back, you're going to find your meats. Well, what I kind of figured out in my own brain is that that's where the electricity is, so they can keep these things fresh, right? But in the center of the store, mostly what you're going to find is processed junk. It's going to be packages and boxes. I was saying, I think on the last show, that when I was a kid, we had one kind of area. It was an Oreo. It was a black and white Oreo. Now you got every kind of Oreo that you can think of, right? Because somebody is somewhere trying to make you spend more money on food, right, to keep you sicker. And so kids are eating these ramen noodles. Parents think, hey, it's cheap, it tastes good, but it's literally a bag of sugar, right? And it just breaks my heart. As a teacher, I remember being an educator, my kids being tired, being sick, missing days out of school. And now where I am, I know that it was directly tied to what they were eating. And so I just appreciate you saying that. And so I just want to plug some science here based on what we're saying, is that 1 in 5 US kids are obese. You said that, right? Our kids are getting bigger and bigger, which means they're unhealthy. Obesity is not, it means your kid is sick. If you have a kid that's overweight and you're ignoring it, that kid is sick, right? The other thing is this pediatric fatty liver. Like, these are names that we're having to make up because they never existed before. It's non-alcoholic fatty liver in adults that don't drink. Now it's pediatric fatty liver in kids who are suffering with a fatty liver that looks like an alcoholic, but they're not drinking alcohol. It is the sugar. And then you have ADHD, migraines, acne, mood swings are all tied to those blood sugar swings. And so you already spoke a little bit about how you and Maria are like kicking in with your boys. You adopted them. Kudos for that. Like, I love it. I've been watching the stories, the anniversaries of it when the boys turn a certain age. I just appreciate you all sharing your family with the world, basically. I mean, it's almost like celebrity status, if you will, among the ketos and the low carbers and the carnivores, right? We all know the kiddos. So what are the first swaps, would you say, that caregivers should start to try to make? So I'm a parent, I've been doing cereal every morning. I've been doing, milk with my kids. I'm buying Pop-Tarts. And this is what I'm fixing, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to send them off to school, or I'm buying a Lunchable, if you will, because it's all convenient. It saves us time. Let's just say I'm a mom, solo mom, and I'm needing to figure out what I may be able to do different. Like, how would you coach a parent on how to start making some swaps with their children?
Well, like you said, the processed foods are the biggest problem. And, I just want to touch on when you're talking there about, it's like the different Oreos and all that stuff. Yeah. When I was young, they had, a couple, the one, right? The one Oreo, black and white. That was it. But there's a science behind it too. And then they literally, I mean, think about these companies. The less satiety that they can drive with their foods, the more you will eat and the more profits they will have. I mean, plain and simple. And they literally have scientists.
Take your time and just say that again. That was rich. Like if I was in my classroom, I would be taking it as a note. Say that again, and then tell us what satiety is when you say it again.
So satiety, these corporations, they have scientists literally in a lab figuring out how to make these foods more hyper palatable, meaning they're just taste so good. They don't really drive satiety, which is that I'm full feeling. And so you eat more and more. And they're literally engineering these foods to make you eat more of them because that drives more profits, right? And so that's what the biggest problem is with, processed food, desert that we have in these stores, in the middle of these stores, is because it's usually through all the hyper processing, they have very little vitamins and minerals. It's all been processed right out of it. It's all salt, sugar, and fat. And they've figured out, the scientists, I mean, there's literally, books on this: salt, sugar, and fat. If you get some fat in there, you put sugar in it and a little bit of salt, it creates a very hyper palatable food. And they use that science to tweak the foods to make us eat more of them. That's literally what they're doing, is engineering these foods to make us eat more of them because it drives more profits.
Why would they do that, Craig? What is the point? Why would they
do that?
Why would they hurt our children like that?
Well, I know. And when you look, talking about the cereals, I remember growing up and you're watching cartoons and every commercial is like Fruit Loops and, cereals and candy. And they're just, driving it from the kids up too, because they know if they get the kids hooked on it, and the kids will bother their parents until their parents buy them this thing that they saw on TV. It's really kind of, a pretty toxic environment, if you will, from that standpoint, in that they're just driving this addiction, driving this, hyper palatable food that everybody wants to eat more of. And they're really the driving force behind this whole epidemic, if you ask me.
So how does a parent swap? What can they start to
do?
So tomorrow morning, I heard Craig today. I'm listening to Denitra weekly. What can I do to start to make a change?
Well, number one, I would say the earlier the better. Like, I don't know a lot of 5-year-olds that can go to the store and shop and buy their own food, right? So, earlier the better. If they're young, just get it out of the house. Nobody in the house needs that junk. And it's only hurting you and your kids' health. Just clean it out. Bring in, whole foods, bring in, get rid of the processed junk and all the sugar. Obviously, when they get older, it's going to get tougher, especially if they've eaten this way their whole life. And now they're, say, 14 years old. Now you want to try to switch the whole diet. It's going to be tougher, obviously, but just try to, I'd say number one, just drive down the added sugars. Anything with added sugar, just avoid it. Look for alternatives. We've got, like you said, we got lots of recipes, but there's also, fair amount of decent products out there, things that can drive convenience, that are a little healthier. One good example is like egg life wraps. Egg life wraps are like these tortilla wraps, but they're just made out of egg whites. And so you can do sandwiches, or, we use them for Mexican, for like, tacos, burritos, those kind of things. That's really convenient, to have something like that on hand. But there are some options out there for those kind of convenience foods. You just got to look for, the right ingredients and avoid the junk. But number one, I would start with just avoiding all the added sugars, because that, you touched on, as well as, obviously the obesity, fatty liver, insulin resistance are massive problems for kids, but a lot of food related things are driving a lot of other things, whether it's ADHD, even maybe making autism symptoms worse, different things that kids are dealing with that, we have tons of testimonies of kids, getting better just through diet with a lot of these conditions.
So Last week we were having I got a message from someone who they had watched I think it may have been Dr. Berry's video where he was talking about how he's been feeding his babies meat from day one, feeding them eggs, and they were like, that just seems horrible, like you were saying earlier. And so I just want to reinforce for us that feeding your children meat, whether it's ground beef, whether it's eggs, whether it's a boiled egg, whether it's bacon in the morning, is going to be far better for them because that protein is going to help build their focus, give them muscle. And the word that, and y'all know it's my favorite word, one of my favorite words is satiety, where they are satiated. So they're not ravenous. So what Craig is saying is that the foods that we're feeding the kids are keeping them ravenous. This is why they keep coming back for more, is because they never got satiated. And so when you think about one of those little boxes of juices that you all buy because it's convenient, you can just pop a straw in it. Like it literally is about 4 or 5 teaspoons of sugar. That's literally what your child is drinking. When you look at the ingredients on a Lunchable, it's all sugar. Everything that they eat in this thing is going, including the cheese. The cheese is going to be a processed cheese that's going to have cellulose in it. The meat that's in there is also going to be a processed meat that's going to have sugar in it. And the crackers are carbohydrates as well. So you literally sent your kid, for convenience sake, you sent your kid to school with some processed junk, essentially that gave them no nutrients. And we're expecting them to go as a teacher. I'm expecting them to come in prepared to to perform. And so then when you're taking them to fast food places and you're ordering the French fries, like in the grand scheme of things, we would say like the potato is not the worst part, but it's what they're frying it in. It's a seed oil, right? And so you heard Craig mention tallow earlier. So tallow used to be what we fried in, but no more. You can rarely find a place that's using tallow at this point. So seed oils inflame their mitochondria, it impacts their brain, and it hurts their joints. And so you have a kid running around and you're trying to figure out why they're always tired, trace it back to the food. All right, Craig. So what transformation, you mentioned earlier that you all have several stories, right? So give us a couple of examples of transformations that you've seen in families who shift their kids' nutrition. I have a few, but I want to hear from you today of how families are changing this.
Yeah, for sure. And back to what you were saying, we've fed our kids this same diet for 14 years. And, they started out when we brought them from Ethiopia, the nutrition wasn't great there. And, because they're an orphanage and they didn't have a lot of money and they're just keeping those kids alive. And they came here like 2% on the height and weight charts, barely registered. And within a year, they were at 50%. And then after 2 years, they're at like 75%, and they pretty much stayed there the rest of their life. So eating this way is one of the best ways that you can feed a kid because it's whole foods. And guess what? 100 years ago, there weren't any processed foods and kids still lived. I mean, it's not like, they didn't, even now you can go to like certain part. I remember there's a movie called Babies. It was all these babies in different parts of the world and just showing these, and you could look it up. It's probably a documentary on somewhere. And one of them was at Mongolia, and they were living in a tent and they had cattle, and one of the baby's little pacifier, basically, it was a chunk of tallow of like fat with a stick stuck through it so she couldn't swallow it. There's a stick stuck through it, and she sucked on this tallow. Like that was her like pacifier, basically.
Wow.
And that was a documentary just a few years ago. So cultures are still doing that in some places. But yeah, I mean, the food, the whole foods are going to have the most vitamins and minerals, everything that the kids need to thrive and their brains to thrive. And the sugars are going to interrupt with all that. And, we see, all the time, we see kids with, ADHD, autism, digestive issues, all of these problems just get better. We have this, about, I don't know, 15 years ago, I just started saving, or 10, maybe it was 10 years ago. I started, we'd always get these testimonies from clients that would talk about all these improvements and thanking us, so much for all our help with their health. And then I just decided like 10 years ago, you know what, I should be saving these, like keep track of them. Right. So I basically have this folder in my
Wow.
email where I just save all these. There's probably, I don't know, over 5,000 of them in there now. And I can go in there and search anything and get a bunch of answers, a bunch of client testimonies of them being seeing great improvements from this symptom, this issue. And this is ADHD, and there's tons of them in here, and most of these are kids. But yeah, I mean, I can just look through, like before I look at these. A couple off the top of my head that I remember. One, a person came to us that their kid was on the autism spectrum. The only thing they changed was diet. They just moved them to this kind of whole foods, low carb diet, and they ended up testing at a whole new level of the autism spectrum, just with diet. And
wow.
And somebody that is maybe not familiar with autism and don't live with it every day. This was revolutionary for the parents because, in the testimony, I remember she said things like, he takes no for an answer the first time. That alone is like revolutionary for them, that, in the moods and everything, so this can be really amazing for kids as well. And I think especially when it comes to things like ADHD, I mean, this one here, it was her 11-year-old son was stronger, more focused, and tackling his advanced schooling like he's never like we never expected. And these are kind of they also had reflux, which has gone away. Their mood, behavior, ADHD problems have all been reduced or gone. I mean, testimony after testimony like this. Here's an autism one. This little boy here, super sweet. He has symptoms of ADHD and high functioning autism, but right here, and he's grown a full inch in height since he started keto 2 months ago.
Wow.
Also, in addition to his increased growth rate, because he was having issues with his growth rate as well. In addition to his growth rate, he has better emotional regulation, impulse control. Just hoped keto would help a little, but he has friends now. He's getting himself into trouble, and his impulse behavior all the time now, things that he's literally done daily for the past 4 years, like throwing toys in the house, never happens anymore. Like, these are, for not just the kids, but for the parents, this is like life-changing when your kid's complete mood and attention and all these ADHD, all the things that kids can struggle with. Not only is it amazing for the kids, but it's great for the parents too, because it's a much easier house to live in,
Absolutely. And I mean, those are great testimonials to just show that the impact. So I want you to talk a little bit about, like, we're showing what happened, but can you break down for the audience, like what was happening before? Like, what is the sugar doing to the kid that needs to be reversed, or the reason why we need to take it out? Break down for them what's happening maybe in the brain, what's happening, how is the sugar impacting that's causing these issues for children?
Yeah, I mean, sugar is something that just, I think, when you have so let me back up. If we go back to our ancestors, to where we came from, again, even just back to like the Little House on the Prairie days, you didn't have this situation where you had these big spikes in blood glucose in the bloodstream all the time. Not even infrequently did you have. I mean, one candy a year is probably not even going to be a problem for that kid. Where you look at the body and how it's made to handle this huge spike in blood sugar from these refined sugars that are everywhere now. Again, back to nature, where did you get a big spike of blood sugar from? Maybe honey, if you ran into it. Like, that's about it. And that came with some risk to get the honey, right? Getting stung and all that. And it wasn't very, common that you'd have honey that you'd find that you could tap into. But, the fruits back in our ancestor days were much less sugar than now. They're always, what do they do to even just fruit? What do? They're constantly hybridizing and and making them bigger, sweeter, less nutrients, more sugar every time. They're never going to make a more tart and less sweet apple. And the next apple is always a sweeter, like the candy apple grapes, cotton candy grapes. They have, normal grapes have plenty of sugar these days, but now they make these cotton candy grapes that were like 3 times as much sugar in them than the normal grapes.
Wow.
And, so they're always going to make it in that direction, less nutrients, more sugar. And that's the problem with the soup, not just, and that's moving outside of the processed food realm into now, some of the fruits that are out there. But at the end of the day, you're getting this huge spike in glucose that the body just does not like, and causes all these problems with the brain. And, at the end of the day, Alzheimer's, dementia is really type 3 diabetes of the brain, which is like insulin resistance of the brain. And so you're constantly driving this high glucose levels, and you drive insulin resistance in your cells, but you can also drive it in your brain, and that causes dementia, Alzheimer's, and all that, the dysfunction in the brain. So I think at a lower level, and that's the extreme level, at a lower level, ADHD, different things that can happen with the brain can be made worse by that same environment. And I'm not saying, autism is caused by sugar or anything like that, but I definitely think it can be made worse, and the symptoms can be worse on a high sugar diet. And if you go to a whole foods, low carb approach, you can see much better control of symptoms across the board.
Yeah, so you make a good point. Is that we're not here talking about causation, right?
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. What we're saying is, could it be possible to improve what your children are facing if you decrease the amount of sugar? What we do know is that sugar is not helping. Sugar is not improving it, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the space we want to lend to. So, kids don't outgrow this metabolic dysfunction if you don't make a change. I mean, again, my son was on my first show back in June on his birthday, and that was one of the conversations that we were having, is that I wanted to change the trajectory of the inheritance that I'm leaving him.
Exactly.
I want to leave him a health inheritance, right? And so those are things I did not know. So I show up in these spaces, Craig, his family, we show up in these spaces to give your children a chance. And so if you're dealing with a kid who is autistic, who has autism, who is, already labeled pre-diabetic, we're saying you control that as the parent, as the caregiver, as the grandparent, grandparents. And I remember my mom, super guilty of this, it was like, whatever they want, they can have, I have other family members that, they got candy jars, and we, normalize that. Or in school, we say it's okay. At church, oh, it's just a little treat. But like you said, for us, or like in the little prairie example you gave, that was once a year.
Yeah.
I mean, when I figured out, Craig, no kidding you, when I figured out that I could have a birthday cake without a birthday, like, what gives?
Well, so, look at schools now. What do? They, if they celebrate a birthday with little cake or candy or something for the kid, well, every kid's got to have that. So that's, you spread that out, and that's, every week, basically, you have a birthday for somebody. And
everybody has a birthday.
And then
so you got 31 birthdays showing up where 31 cupcakes per kid. I mean, that's a great point to make. And then don't forget the parties that you have to celebrate, honor roll. I do have a client who has taken full control back, and her son, she is now like not with the donuts and dads thing, right? They're not with the mom and muffins anymore. She's having conversations with the school about this is what I talk about, being a self-advocate. My son can't participate in this. Now it feels like he's being left out, right? Because this is a sugary event that I know already with his lab work that he is, on the borderline, the cusp of being pre-diabetic, which means he's already insulin resistant, right?
Yeah.
So changing that trajectory. So give us more, Craig.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I was just going to play off of on that is, the genetic aspect, if your kids are your biological kids, they have your DNA, right? And, back to the example with us, just let them be kids. People say that to everybody. And yet, if you're, as an adult, overweight, insulin resistant, struggled with obesity or struggled with different health issues like these, your kids have the same genetics. And if you put them on the same food that got you there, and maybe even worse, maybe even more sugar and junk as a kid, they're just on the same path and they're going to get there quicker.
Yeah.
And you're enabling that. And, kids, here's the thing about kids. We started off by talking about how we give them zero education about food. A while ago, there was Jamie Oliver, I think his name was. He was going to go through schools and try to create better school lunches. And it was a TV show that was on. And I remember he was in the room with these kids. I don't know, they're probably like 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that. Actually, maybe they're like 10 years old because it wasn't like kindergarten or first grade. So anyway, 10, 12-year-old kids. And he's asking them stuff like, which plant does your French fries do French fries come from? And they didn't know. They didn't know it was a potato. Like, and all these things, like they had no idea what the food was that they were eating. And if we don't educate them, it's not like they magically turn 18 years old and they're like, oh, okay, now I know how to eat. Now I know what good food is. Like, there's not some switch that goes off when they go to college that they suddenly know how to eat well, right? From that, let them be kids, eat all the junk to, we've got to be there for them for their long-term health. And if you don't want them on the same path you were on, you've got to start early and educate them and get them on a different path.
Right. And would you say that means kids need to eat a ton of fruits and vegetables and salads, potatoes, lots of grains? Would you say that would be what should be on their plate?
Personally, I think prioritizing protein is good for everyone, because animal proteins they're a complete protein. So they're getting amino acids to grow and build muscle and build height and all the things they need. Your bones are basically a matrix of protein filled in with calcium. And so if you want to support bone health and growth, prioritizing protein is a good idea. Protein also, we've got these charts. I know you've seen them a lot, like in their Keto book over here. We did a whole chapter on where are your vitamins and minerals coming from. They're coming primarily from animal proteins. You look at kale, blueberries, and these supposed superfoods, and if you line them up against just a steak for vitamins and minerals, the steak blows them out of the water. And so if you want your kids to thrive, they need a lot of vitamins and minerals. And where do you get those? Your steak, your animal proteins. So another reason to prioritize protein. So I think the focus of everyone's plate should be a quality animal protein to start with. And in addition to that, am I
getting protein when I go to McDonald's and I have chicken nuggets?
There might be some in there somewhere. I don't know, but that's the thing is, start with the whole foods. That's like baseline. You go from the processed food, fast food world to just something whole foods. I don't care what the whole food is, any whole food, fruits, vegetables, and animal proteins, eggs, dairy, whatever it is. Start there, and you're going to do much better to start. Now, if you have some of these conditions, fatty liver, obesity, ADHD, now you want to start looking at driving down the sugar side of things too. And that might be the fruit, keeping it to, lower sugar fruits like berries, these kind of things that, our boys, they love strawberries, raspberries. They put some whipped cream on them, and that's a perfect little dessert. Without tons of sugar. And then, vegetables, it depends on their situation. I'm not a big fan of grains in general for anyone, like wheat and flours and things, but, everybody's situation is different. But, if they, again, start from a whole food approach, even, a baked potato, great, for your kid. That's, if they don't have, if they're not trying to lose weight or anything like that, as long as it's a whole food, I think you're in such a better place to start with. Now, if you are dealing with insulin resistance, now you're going to really try to drive down the carbs in general. So now you're talking about, only low sugar fruits like berries, drive down the starchy vegetables, stick with lower carb ones, and again, prioritize the protein. I think that's a great approach for everyone, and it can be really simple. You know, people start thinking, oh gosh, I gotta do all this cooking now. Grill up a steak, you know, grill up some chicken, grill up, you know, we do bunless burgers all the time. It's just, you know, smash a burger onto a skillet, throw a piece of cheese on, and, you know, a couple of those and you're good to go. And maybe a little salad with it. Have a burger with a salad, just skip the bun. It can be really simple. It doesn't take a lot of time.
Yeah, so I like how you're talking about bunless burgers. It was one of the first things, even my son as an adult, that I started to help him see because he loved burgers. And I'm like, you can have all the burgers you want. You can eat all the burger patties you want. Like, I came up with this idea that the bun is a utensil. It's the same as sheetrock, right? We only use the bun to keep the grease off our fingers. So teaching your kid to use a fork to eat a burger they can have more burger patties. So when you go to the place and have a burger, you got a bun, a piece of meat, and a bun. So now you can just start with 3 burger patties if that makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
Versus eating that bun that's going to sit in them for years. It's going to take years to get rid of that, right? This is what causes this inflammation. And so, Craig, in terms of a parent who, because it's really not common for parents to know what type of labs to ask for their children. They take them back and forth to the doctor. I know for me in my practice, many of my parents are not getting any kind of lab work, no kind of blood work on their children. And I'm starting to encourage this. So if a parent is listening and they're saying, okay, I'm looking at my child and physically I can see that they're overweight. So now I'm curious as to what labs should I be asking my doctor for? What would you say to them?
Yeah, if you've got a kid who's got some situations and some problems, yeah, for sure. I could see getting some things done. Like, again, if they're overweight, maybe early insulin resistance type of symptoms, I would definitely get a fasting insulin checked, knowing where their insulin level is. Because generally speaking, and this is pretty much, you know, when insulin resistance rises, fasting insulin rises. So if you have a high fasting insulin, you could still have a normal fasting glucose. So your blood sugar is kind of normal, but your insulin's really high, trying to keep it that low. And so it's kind of an early sign that insulin resistance is a problem. They might not show with a high fasting glucose. Glucose might be normal, but the pancreas is working super hard to keep it normal. That means you're almost to the point where it's going to break and now it can't keep it normal and the glucose starts to come up too. But fasting insulin is a great early indicator of problems. You know, fasting glucose can be helpful too, as well as A1C. I think, you know, inflammation markers are kind of important too, just generally, because, you know, that's a good indication of problems. You know, vast majority of diseases have a root cause of chronic inflammation. And so, you know, something like CRP or SED rate are good inflammation markers that you could use just to see if there's other stuff going on in them. And I'm talking, you know, wide range of issues, even beyond food. Like, you know, myself, I had a history of Lyme disease, and that showed up in my inflammation markers. All my other blood tests that they ran looked totally fine, but my inflammation was super high. And so that we found out that was due to Lyme disease. But yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, so thank you for saying it aloud. So parents, I just want to hone in on that and reinforce that when you're taking your children back and forth to the doctor, right, don't wait for something to be wrong. Like, start to ask for these type of tests. Now, where you are seeing symptoms, now start to ask for these tests and ask, like, for the A1C, the fasting insulin, and those need to be coupled together. Usually doctors are just doing an A1C, but they're not doing a fasting insulin. So, so we want to make sure that we are testing the labs. We want to be data driven. We don't want to be guessing, oh, he's just a kid. Oh, he's going to grow out of that. Oh, you can know for certain what's going on with your kid. So, Craig, now I just want to turn to just some of the amazing things that you all have going on. And one of them is your Sugar-Free Kids Cookbook.
Yes.
that you have. So talk to us about that and tell, because I want to put a link in here, but I also want to follow a link that you want that could be more beneficial to you, or I can just go to Amazon. I mean, I've bought several of them. I give them away as gifts. And so if Amazon is fine, I can do it there. But if you have a direct link that can come from your website.
Yeah, as soon as we're done, I'll give you a link. But yeah, I love that book. That was a real fun one to put together. It's and back to what we talked about throughout this is educating our kids. And that's what the whole focus of the book is. You know, almost all of our books, we try to put some education in it along with the recipes. If it's a cookbook, and that's you know, Sugar-Free Kids, it's a cookbook, but you know, like half of that book is education. And the really cool thing about it is it's designed in a way to be appealing to kids. And so there's like, you know, these superheroes, and there's like you know, for the amino acids, we made Lego blocks and talked about how the different amino acids are like different Lego blocks that build up your muscles, and made it, you know, try to connect with kids and relate, you know, what they're eating and what it's doing to their bodies, so they understand nutrition and what's going on with the food they eat. And so that was a lot of fun. And of course, the lovely Holly Berry did the foreword to that book, which was, she's such a blessing. She's super sweetheart. But she wrote the foreword to include in that book because she has her own kids, and she understands the importance of, you know, health for our kids as they grow up. And yeah, that's a great book. I love that book, and I'll send you a link.
Absolutely. So the Sugar-Free Kids book is one of my favorites because it has simple recipes. It's things that you can do with children. Again, one of my clients was switching her kid over, and she was so afraid that this was going to be the first year that her kid did not have a birthday cake. And so she was like, I don't know, I don't want this trajectory to feel like a punishment to him. And so I was able to, she ordered a Maria Emmerich, the Sugar-Free Cookbook, gave it to a baker, and a baker made, I mean, I went twice myself and had a cupcake, right? A chocolate cup. And we tagged Maria in it.
That's awesome.
I went twice myself by there. And I live in a whole other city. I was like, it'll be nice to drive to Memphis today, right? Because there's cupcakes that I can eat that are not going to my blood sugar. So it's
that book has a blender cake. There's a blender cake in there. Not only is it super moist and tasty, it's super easy. You just throw it in the blender and you blend it up and you pour it in a pan and you throw it in the oven. It's an awesome recipe.
Yeah, I like how the baby always says, cook with your kids, right?
Yeah, Kai at the end of every video. Yeah, cook with your kids, because it gets you
kids in the kitchen. This is a good time to do that with them.
Yeah, for sure. That always, you know, she tells stories of this, how Kai never liked scallops, and so she just had him come in and make them himself. And guess what? He tried them and he liked them because, you know, he had a hand in making. He was invested in this now because he made it. That's the kind of thing that I think kids need more of. Not only that's education as well. They see what the food is that they're eating, where it came from, how it was made. You know, I think that gives them appreciation for the food as well as education on what the food is. And they always, you know, something that they had a hand in making themselves, they're going to like it more every time.
Every time. And I dropped a link. I don't know if it's showing up as a link, but I put Maria's YouTube channel in the show, in the notes here, in the comments, so that you can go and like and subscribe. You will find no better recipes. Like, I live by them. If I'm going to try something, whether it's a pizza bowl, whether it's ice cream, I make the Equipped peanut butter cookies.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready. I know she just put out one for strawberry ice cream. Like, I already have strawberry Equipped here at the house. Like, these are things that you can actually, like, I'm not making this stuff up. Y'all don't believe me? Go try it, because everything tastes good. I've made meatloaf from Maria. I've made protein spare and white bread from Maria. So all of these are recipes that, yes, they take a little bit longer, but you're worth it. Like, the value of you're a luxury item. And now we're bringing you some luxury recipes. Maria, talk a little bit about Maria. Also, I keep saying Maria because it just stays in my head, but You all also have a shopping, like what goes in your pantry. Like I run to that. It's my first stop if I'm looking for if I am trying to find anything, whether it is magnesium, I know if I go to that website that I'm going to find something quality. So talk to us a little bit about that. And I'm going to try to drop the link here as well.
Sure. You can get to everything that we have, all our social media and everything through ketomaria.com. But the shopping guide that you talked about is on our blog, our free blog with tons of free recipes and information. That's mariamindbodyhealth.com. And on the top left, there's a little shopping cart, a little shopping thing. And if you click on that, we've got a whole list in there of really, if it's on that list, you know that we approve of the ingredients. There's no junk hidden in it, in the ingredients or anything like that. That it's a quality product, something that we use with our own family. And as well as we work with the companies. So there's tons of coupons in there. So you go in there, you get a coupon code, get a discount, that kind of thing. So that shopping guide is a great place to go for anything you need.
I mean, it has saved me so many times. I mean, I've found clean cheesecake there.
Yeah.
I've found clean sweeteners there.
Yeah.
And even now, supplements, being able to find quality supplements. And so I live by it. And the other thing that I like that you all do, that if something changes, because there was a brand that we were using, I'm not going to call the name, but there was a brand that changed their ingredients.
Yeah.
And you all immediately said, no, we're not. They're no longer approved. And what they mean by approved, what I'm hearing is they vetted it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing that they would serve on their tables with their children. And so for me, it is my immediate go-to. If I'm in a grocery store and I'm looking for something, if I'm working with a client and they ask me like, what would you recommend for this? Well, I really like this. I'm going to this Maria Mind, Body, and Health. Like that's my first stop, is to check those things out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we put a lot of work into keeping that list up to date. And like you said, if somebody changes something, we'll pull it off our shopping list. And so if you go in there and I know it was there before and you're searching for it, it's not on there anymore, they probably changed their ingredients to add some junk or add some sugar or chemicals or something that we don't really think is healthy for people. So we'll pull it off the list. But it's a great resource.
So I put that link in here, and I'm encouraging you all, for those of you that are, new to this journey. Of course, I call this show Carnivore-ish. Ish means that we are informed, we're satiated, and we're healing. It doesn't mean that all we eat is meat. But as Craig said, we do prioritize protein, right? So that we are getting those building blocks. And then we manage fat as a lever for that. But what we are also saying is that carbohydrates are full of sugar, and they're going to turn to sugar, and they're going to spike your blood, and not just your blood, but the blood of your children as well. And so this is an opportunity for you to go to this website. I'm encouraging you, like it's where I go to get information around what I'm going to eat. If I have a question about like what's going to metabolize in my body first, I'm going to go find Craig and Maria and check out a video that they put out there free. Now, they do have services. Like I said, I'm a keto and carnivore coach under them, and I stay subscribed to them because I know it's going to be quality. And I've done several other things since I did that in 2021, but it is my go-to place because they continue to update it. And so it is, for me, it's my safe place. I know that this is what they have given their life to, is figuring out what is a way for people to fuel themselves in a way that's going to keep them healthy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
That very much.
There all the time. So, Craig, we're getting to the hour, and again, I just appreciate you so much, and I just really want to give you like the last things that you would say to the audience, whether it is inviting them, dropping more of your links in here. Like you all have 1,000 free reign on this platform to like go forward, whether it's coaches, your next event. I'm going to see you in South Africa. I don't know if you know that I'm going to be there.
Oh, wow. Cape Town?
Yes, I'm going to be in Cape Town.
Awesome. I can't
It's the
wait.
first time I've said it out loud, but yes, I'll be there
Yeah, that's
speaking as
great.
well at the World Nutrition Summit. So we'll be there
Can't
together
wait.
for that. But anything else that you all have going on, you want to invite people to whatever, let's do it.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to be in Tennessee at Low Carb for Better Health here next month.
Okay. That's up the road.
Yeah.
I'll get a chance to be there. I've been to Amanda's. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a fun
I'll put that
event.
in here too. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. And then, yeah, we have this big crazy trip. We're actually going to start in Cairo, Egypt at Low Carb Cairo. And then we go to South Africa and we end up in Cape Town for the event there with Dr. Noakes. So that's what's coming up here for events. Otherwise, I mean, last words, I think, people really just, back to the original thing I was talking about, like how much time and effort do we put into kids' sports? And the vast majority of these kids, vast majority, after high school, maybe after college, that's it. They're never in that sport again, professionally anyway, or anything like that. Vast majority of kids, and all the time and money and effort we put into that. And yet the thing that will help them till they're 80 years old, the good diet, the good nutrition, understanding the food they're putting in their body, we barely touch on it. And so I really, really encourage people to, start early as soon as you can. Help kids understand their food, get involved with making their food. Like Kai says at the end of every video, cook with your kids. It's just, I think we'd be a better place if we all did that.
Yeah. What else you got? We got a little time here. I don't want to rush you at all. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm like, tell us more, because I mean,
well, I
you are
appreciate you very much.
really. Like yeah, the work that you all are doing, the time that you're taking, and sharing your family with the world. I mean, literally with the world. And if anybody is here, like go check out their testimonies, their blogs, people losing 100 pounds in a year. And what we know is that it's not just about the weight loss, but it is the healing that has occurred because they're now fueling their body properly. Like, go check them out. Craig does multiple teaching videos. You can Google a topic and then put Maria Emmerich or Craig Emmerich. They have tons of books. And that's what I do. Tell us about your books, Craig.
Yeah, we have, I think, over 20 books now, that we've written, and we're working on a new one now. I think the tentative title is The Art of Metabolic Health. And so we're going to be putting together like all of our information, all of our knowledge across the spectrum of, keto, carnivore, protein sparing, put it all into one book and have it. And we're going to talk about HRT and menopause and hormones, and just kind of have it be the one book for all health situations. And that's going to be coming out probably next year, hopefully. We're working hard on that. The writing process is a long process, takes a lot of time, but we're really excited about that one. But right now, we have coaching, we have group coaching through our keto-adapted.com. Again, the blog, this website, you can get through all of this through ketomaria.com. Then we got all our social media links on there too. But yeah, we have coaching, we have ebooks, we have the coach training program that you went through, where you can, if you have a passion for this and you want to help others, you can learn how to be a good health coach, like Denitra. So yeah, we have got a lot of programs out there, but a lot of free stuff too.
Yeah, so I'm dropping links because I just don't want people to walk away and not know how to find you. Because if I had to promote of all the things that I could promote in my life, like this would be by far the best place that you could go. Not only learn, you can eat good. Your family is going to be happy and healthier. I mean, for me, like, I started decreasing. I call it deflating immediately when I figured out. I mean, even the whole eat too much fat, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got on this whole eat more fat journey, and had to figure out how to dial that back some.
Yep.
And eat more lean. And the ANA, you talked about inflammation markers. I had a positive ANA for a long time, and I no longer have a positive ANA anymore.
Oh, great.
Right? It's in the negative. And so I know that it's directly tied to changing the foods. Okay, I'm not gonna keep prolonging this because I would keep you here, all day. And you're welcome to come back anytime. I
Thank you.
just want to continue to encourage the audience to check out Craig and Maria Emmerich. If you see their books, I saw the Sugar Free Kids book on sale one time. I think I brought 10. Those were like Christmas gifts for a lot of families that have
You're so sweet.
children. And then there's the Keto book, just Keto period. Like literally it's Keto period. That is if you ever really want to understand what's happening in your body, don't let the word keto mess you up. Society has messed up the word keto.
Yeah.
So let the word keto mess you up. That's a good, strong book to go through and really understand metabolically what's happening in your body. For women, why are you having menopause? Why do you have skin tags? Why are your eyes darkening? It can help you understand that. And so any of their books, the other thing that I like is that they're not just cookbooks, as he said, they are teaching tools. So you're not just going to go in there and get the recipe. You don't understand why you're using these ingredients. You're going to understand. I mean, I even have a new kind of cinnamon now because I need cinnamon, right? I need an aluminum-free baking powder. Like this stuff that
little things add up.
From Maria's recipes. Like the coconut milk I was buying was a terrible coconut milk to use in my ice cream, but Maria recommended one that's a cleaner one. Some of us drink heavy cream with everything, but most heavy creams have carrageenan in it, right? But Maria has a recommendation that doesn't have a carrageenan. So I'm honing in on that heavy because I want you to understand, even when you start to make this change to be low carb, to do better, and you only get on the surface and not go deeper. In my programs, I call it being an I3, an informed ingredient inspector. That's what you got to be so that you can understand, even in low carb. I mean, a Diet Coke on the back says 0 carbs, but the ingredients there are not quality for you.
Or all the things that you talked earlier about, the keto foods, things that keto on the package, most of that's just processed junk.
Yeah, it's just stuff they made up. That's why I don't have no carbs and they don't have nothing in it.
Yeah,
so it's nothing good. For you to eat. Well, Craig, thank you so kindly for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here, taking a little time away from the family. Please give my sincere love and hugs to them. I look forward to, I probably will see you even here because I'm in Tennessee, right up the road from Amanda. I've been 3 years to her event. I did put it here for anyone who's in the Tennessee area. It's right outside of Dixon. Amanda Decker is having low carb for better health. Dr. Berry is going to be there. Tracy McBeath is coming all the way from Australia. It's going to be an amazing event. So anyone who is interested, sign up. I may be there one day. And yeah, I'm super excited about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in October. So thank you for joining. I'm going to close us out. And then if you'll hang around for a second.
Thank you, Denitra.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Hang on one second. So y'all, we're going to close out tonight. Craig has been an awesome guest for us tonight with some deep, good information for us to challenge ourselves to go and do better. Nutritional knowledge is where we believe if you knew better, would you do better? Tonight was a great night for you to know better. And then we gave you resources and tools to be able to do better. So thank you so much for joining. Remember, this month, we've been focused on reset, rhythm, and reclaiming. Now, you can also join me at the Carnivore-ish community on Facebook. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And then share this with a parent. If you have children that you've been trying to tell them, look, stop feeding my grandkids all that stuff. Now you got some backup. We came as soldiers behind you to get you prepared to help your children change. And it's just not your voice that they're going to hear. They're going to hear some other voices and some parents that are living it. So thank you all for joining tonight.